And we are following breaking news this midday. A plane bound for Columbus is missing over Lake Erie with a local family on board. We know that John T. Fleming of Dublin and 5 others were on the plane, according to Fleming's mother, whom we spoke to within the last hour. Search and rescue teams in Cleveland are currently looking for the Cessna plane that went missing shortly after takeoff at 10:50 last night. The flight was destined for the Ohio State University Airport. We have live team coverage for you right now as crews look for that flight. We are expecting a news conference to unfold any minute now, and as soon as that does, we will bring it to you live. In fact, we're going to listen in right now, live press conference in Cleveland.
That plane was en route from Burke Lakefront all the way to Columbus, Ohio. Upon notification, the Coast Guard launched an H-65 aircraft helicopter from Air Station Detroit. The Coast Guard cut a Bristol Bay from Detroit as well. It's a 140. And we employed the services of the Joint Rescue Coordination Center from Canada and a Canadian C-130 to conduct searches throughout the evening. As of this morning, we have continued to refresh those resources, and we are continuing to conduct a search out approximately 2 to 3 miles offshore to locate anything that is out there at this particular time. At this particular time, we have not found any debris or anything in which we can further search on, but we're going to continue to conduct searches. Weather throughout the night, we dealt with about approximately 12 to 15 foot seas, which precluded the launch of most of our small craft that are around this area. And the seas have subsided a little bit, and we also have better daylight at this particular time, better visibility, which gives us the opportunity to basically put better eyes on sight out on scene. I think that's all that we have at this particular time regarding where we are in regards to the search. We're continuing our search efforts right now with an H-65 helicopter, and the Bristol Bay is on scene, and we're also using a C-130 from Canada as well. So with that, I'll take any questions that you may have.
Sir, can you say, does the runway from Burke here, does it take off out over the water? Is that why they were over the water instead of over the land?
The airport does take off over the water, and more importantly, I think the departure procedure brings them out to the north on the departure path of the aircraft to take out around the city of Cleveland.
What can you tell us about the people who were on board?
At this time, we know that there are 3 adults and 3 children on board the aircraft. We're currently working with the families to identify and update them on the information that we have.
There are reports that the pilot was John Fleming. Can you confirm who the pilot was, at least?
As I said, we're not sure of that 100%. We are working with the families at this particular time to notify them and make sure that we're working with them in that regards.
Was everybody on board related?
I don't believe so.
Can you say what the weather was like and whether the flying conditions were okay to fly at that time, 11 o'clock last night?
I'm not sure of the weather at that particular time. I can tell you that the seas, the report that we received out on scene from the commercial vessel traffic was that we had 12 to 15 foot seas and they were unable to assist. I'm not sure about the aviation weather at the time.
How do you categorize?
I'm sorry, go ahead, sir.
How do you categorize this search? Is it still considered a search and rescue?
Oh yes, we're actively searching for people out there or any signs of any survivors, any people out there on board the aircraft itself. We're still searching.
Is there any indication that the plane, I mean, looking at the records of the plane, is it clean? I mean, the plane is up to snuff, I guess, or everything that you know of?
I wouldn't be able to answer that. I would imagine so. I mean, that's the owner-operator of the pilot to make sure that that's the case.
Can you say why you're looking out in Lake Erie as opposed to over the ground? Do you know that you lost contact with it on radar over water?
Yes, sir. As we were reported last night, the last radar contact we had was approximately, at least as it was reported to us, was approximately 2 miles north of Burke Lakefront Airport, in which we've conducted a search area in that regards to encompass that area.
How big of an area are you searching?
Right now, the initial search area was about a 16 by 8 nautical mile area. We're going to continue to evaluate that and adjust that based off of weather and wind conditions that would change where the possible drift would go.
And is that directly north of Burke or is it to the east?
It's, for the most part, north of Burke Lakefront.
Was there an ELT?
At this time, we have not received, there's several faint hits of an ELT, but we have not received a strong, steady pulse of an ELT signal at this time.
What is an ELT?
Emergency locating transmitter.
So how many total assets do you have searching for this plane right now? Who's all involved?
Right now, it's Coast Guard assets and Canadian Coast Guard from the Joint Rescue Coordination Center in Trenton. So we have a C-130 aircraft. That's a fixed-wing aircraft. We have a H-65 helicopter, and we also have the Bristol Bay, which is a 140-foot cutter as well.
Any plans to add more?
We're looking at the resources we have available to cover the area for searching, and at this time, don't need to add more. We just need to make sure that we have the right coverage that we're out there.
Any idea on the ages? Because we had heard reports from the Coast Guard that there were 4 adults, 2 children, but now you're telling us 3 adults, 3 children.
Yeah, at this time, we know that, children we consider under 18 and under, so at this point, we know that we have 3 adults and we have 3 children at this point, so.
Do you believe you've notified the families of all the people on board?
We are currently working through that right now, trying to notify everybody that's involved that we're aware of at this point.
Is it 2 families, or, do you know?
At this point, we believe it's 2 families, but we're still, again, confirming the families on board and working with those particular.
Have they indicated to you that they were here in Cleveland to attend the cast meeting last night?
I'm not aware of that.
How long was the plane in Cleveland at Burke?
I don't know that. Sorry.
Do you know what time it actually took off?
Last report was approximately, I believe, 10:37, if I'm not mistaken, is what time it was scheduled to take off.
And what time did it disappear from radar?
We not exactly 100% sure, but we were notified shortly after 11 p.m. of the aircraft not responding and the radar target lost.
Because on something like that quick, is it safe to say that there was more than just weather at a factor there, or it could strictly be weather that caused this? It seems very quick to take off and go down that abruptly.
Right. I wouldn't know exactly what the conditions were or exactly what happened in that particular situation, so I wouldn't be able to speculate on that.
We know the water temp is in the mid-30s right now. How long can someone be in that water and survive?
Well, so it comes down to a will to survive. We have charts that always dictate, based off a person's body weight and height and the weather conditions that are out there, but there's never a determination on how long a person's will to survive. We're taking advantage of all the daylight at this particular time to try and locate any signs of life out there and find the wreckage or find some type of debris or maybe even the aircraft itself just sitting up on the water with 6 people on there. So
So you think there could be survivors?
yeah, that's why we're out there searching right now. We're looking for anything out there to help us do that.
When does it go from a rescue to a recovery?
At some point, there comes, there's charts and tables that tell us kind of when our resources are not going to be able to potentially locate, or that will to survive is far exceeded. So that's determined based on water temps and those types of things, and it's different in every case.
So there's, initially Coast Guard said they were contacted at 11:30. You said just shortly after 11. Could you clarify that for us?
Yeah, the report that we have is basically about 11:30 is when we were notified. I said shortly after 11.
You
So.
were notified by the tower here?
That's correct. We were notified by the air traffic control. That's correct. 11:18 is the exact time we were notified.
11:18.
When there's rough weather, I mean, they fly in all sorts of weather all the time. Is there, the tower gives them the information? Is it always up to the pilot whether to proceed or not to proceed, or?
Ultimately, it's the pilot's responsibility to determine whether it's safe for them to conduct the flight. I can't speak for the FAA or for this particular pilot, but ultimately it's up to the pilot to determine whether it's safe for them to continue or not. So.
And there was no communication between the tower and the plane after takeoff that would have indicated any kind of problems?
I'm not aware of any.
How has weather impacted your search?
Last night, weather, we had snow squalls that were going through the area, darkness, of course, even through the use of NVGs, night vision goggles. We were using those throughout the night. But the sea state itself, definitely hindered our ability to search a little bit, but that's why we're taking advantage of the daylight right now.
Assuming the plane was intact, how long could it land on the water in 12-foot seas and float?
I don't.
Hard to say.
I don't know. I mean, it depends on how they landed, if they, have a perfectly executed landing, and but 12-foot sea, aircraft's not designed to float, so especially in 12-foot seas, it's not like a boat. So I really wouldn't be able to answer that.
What do you know about the pilot's history? Is it the person been a pilot for a long time, just recently licensed? Do we know anything about how long?
I don't know anything about the pilot whatsoever.
And is it a pilot and a co-pilot in this situation? Are there two people?
I'm not sure what the requirements are for this particular aircraft. So
Are there 5 passengers and 1 pilot, or?
That's my understanding.
At this point, that's. So the children were not related to the pilot? The pilot was the pilot of the airplane, and then you had a family of 5?
That is at the particular time, we're not sure. That's what we're trying to work through right now regarding the family situation and who was on board the aircraft and who to notify. So,
Are you feeling optimistic?
I'm always hopeful whenever we're still conducting a search out there. I truly believe that we're out there and we're going to find something. Having done search and rescue cases myself as a pilot, every time I go out, I'm looking to find the needle in the haystack, and I'm hopeful that I'll do that. So yes, we are very helpful, and we'll be very hopeful up until the point that we have to turn the search off and we switch over to assisting with recovery if necessary.
Was this a commercial plane? I mean, a plane that's used, hired out, or?
As far as we know, it was privately owned.
Okay.
How far from the crash point do you think the wreckage could have drifted in these conditions since last night?
It depends on how and where it went in and those types of things. We have models that we're using to go ahead and provide the best search avenue for ourselves to locate the aircraft itself or anybody that would be on the aircraft. And that varies depending on all types of things. So I don't know exactly how far it would drift or wherever. The good thing is we have weather that's pushing anything basically towards shore at this particular point. So more of an easterly direction. So.
Could you walk us through what you would do if you were to see debris or if you were to see someone in the water?
Well, that would be we would mark that location to identify a point. If we had a surface asset nearby that could go and inspect that, we would make sure that we know what that is. So when you say a debris in the water, is it the aircraft itself? If that's the case, then we would mark the position. We get people on scene or vector in people to assist with that, and then try and make a determination of what to do at that particular point. So if there's people, if the aircraft's sitting upright on the water and there's people waving at us, then we're going to try and get the people out of the aircraft and then bring them up. So and then it just provides a data point for us in regards to how we continue with our search efforts.
FAA, NTSB on their way en route?
FAA has been notified, and I believe that they have also notified NTSB.
How far could a plane drift after hitting the water with the current seas, wind conditions? How far is your search area? I mean, starting at point A, how far would point B be? Is it feet, miles? I mean,
it's miles. So basically the search area that we've defined as our original search area is a 16 nautical mile by 8 nautical mile search area. And based off of the way winds and weather and data that we input into our models, we will adjust that search area so that we are, following where we think the most likely point is that we'll find somebody.
what kind of technology are you using in your search? What are you equipped to see metal underneath the water with?
We don't necessarily see anything underneath the water, at least from a Coast Guard perspective. So we're using, at this particular time, we're using the Mach 1, Mod 1 eyes of the pilots and the crew on the cutters that are underway, and the C-130 as well. So.
Did you say they were using night vision stuff last night during the search, or how was it?
That's correct.
Could you explain what that is, what the pilot does?
There's nothing different that's done regarding night vision goggles. Night vision goggles are a technology that allows basically any type of refraction of light to provide basically uses whatever illumination of light is out there and magnify it so that you're actually basically able to see a little bit in the dark. So if there was any type of light or reflection or a light blinking or something along that lines, the NVG, a pilot wearing night vision goggles would be able to probably pick up some type of response.
You've been listening in to a news conference there in Cleveland with an official from the U.S. Coast Guard updating us on the missing plane from Cleveland bound for Columbus. Here's what we know. According to family, John T. Fleming of Dublin and an executive with the Superior Beverage Company, along with 5 others, were on board that flight. We just heard from the U.S. Coast Guard saying that this is definitely a search and rescue mission. No debris has been found, but they continue to search an area over Lake Erie with some rough waters last night, saying that the search efforts were very difficult, but they are optimistic today with daylight and some renewed weather that they will continue their search there as well. We have Beth Del Ponte live at the OSU airport right now, and that is where that plane was expected to land after it left Cleveland last night around 10:50. Beth?
Yes, Ellie, we've attempted to reach the airport director here, have not heard back yet. We've been live here throughout the morning. This is where that plane was supposed to ultimately end up here late last night here at OSU Airport. 6 on board, as we've been telling you. We now have learned that John Fleming, an executive with Superior Beverage, that's a local beer distributor here in town, he was on the plane. They were on their way, again, to the OSU Airport when they disappeared from radar. Just to review a bit, certainly local search and rescue, including the U.S. Coast Guard, currently looking for this Cessna Citation 525 aircraft. It departed Burke Lakefront Airport about 10:50 last night. Weather conditions, as we've been telling you, have made it extremely difficult. They've waited for daylight. They've had high waves and a lot of wind, up to 35 mile per hour to contend with. They'll continue that search, and we will keep you up to date on the very latest.
All right, Beth, thank you. We appreciate